A warm welcome to Women Together. My name is Antoinette, and I'm just going to give it a couple minutes for people to continue to join. I know that on these days we take a little moment to land and to arrive here. So I see more of us are still joining. And in the meantime, we can just say a little hello in the chat. I love seeing where everyone's coming from. So you can share that in the chat and just let us know. So we've got New York City, West Palm Beach, Florida. Wonderful. So we can keep adding those in. I'm standing here in Cortland Manor, New York, what's known as Cortland Manor, New York, but Lenape land. And just to acknowledge the land that we're each standing or sitting on, just giving a moment. Today's hour is going to be focused on honoring our experience and really just an invitation to acknowledge before we begin the land that we may be sitting or standing on and the people who have come before us and honoring their experience as well. So just recognizing all that we are is all of our past experiences and those that have come before us too. So just noticing we've got Huntington Beach, California, Drizzly, Boise, Chile, Long Island, Ramlosa, Sweden, Chile, Congers, New York, Boston, Mass, Overcast, Toronto, Suburban, Philly. Wonderful. Thanks, Ruth, for your recognition and gratitude. Chicago in the house. Wonderful. So we are all just landing and arriving. Today's Women Together session is the first of our March series of Women Together Connect. And it is March 1st, which is also the beginning of Women's History Month. So happy Women's History Month. As much as we're honoring our experiences, we're also honoring the incredible experiences of so many women who have come before us. So just taking a moment to celebrate, maybe a little inner happy dance for Women's History Month and all of the women who have come before us and who have just done so much work for women to be recognized and celebrated and honestly seen as human beings and treated as human beings. And there is continued work to be done. We also just completed Black History Month. So just noticing that these 2 months are such important parts of recognizing so much work that has been done to really just explore equality and understand what that may mean for each of us, whether that's in how we get paid, in how we have our health taken care of, how we're educated, whether or not we can vote and take part in democratic systems. So there's so many different things that we've each worked for in different ways, and so many women and people of color who have come before us who have really stood on the front lines of some of those fights. So just acknowledging all that it takes for us to be here, and all that it has taken. Perhaps we just land here with a moment of stillness. And what I find is, in a lot of my work, there's a lot that is required of us to be on the front lines. And there's also what that means is cultivating an inner peace as well. And many of us are looking for and hoping for peace in the world. And what we also find is that the outer world can be a mirror of our inner world, that all of us, all beings are interconnected. And so this little moment of stillness, it may just seem like a little tiny practice that we do at the beginning of our time here together, but it's also a moment to tune in to that interconnectedness and tune into what it means to really cultivate inner peace and connect that up to the peace that we're hoping for in our world. So just taking a moment to be with whatever may be coming up for you. You can just get your feet on the ground, feel the connection to earth. Feeling the feet on the ground, feeling a seat on the chair connected to earth. And with that, just feeling a sense of groundedness, sense of connection to the ground. Just feeling this earth that we are each connected to. And knowing that there is so much happening on this little planet Earth. Just feeling a solid connection to Earth. And feeling also a connection to sky, a connection to the expansiveness above us, just above the top of our heads. And also connecting to the place around the heart. And just noticing what we're feeling today, the space around the heart. Perhaps a feeling of joy, frustration, anger. I'm not trying to change anything. Just noticing. And when you're ready, you can return your eyes to the screen and connect with our Zoom room here. And we have a wonderful little group here today in our Zoom room. And we also have a number of us in on YouTube. So a hello and warm welcome to those of you in on YouTube. And what we'll do is just connect with each other. So if you're on Zoom, I like to go onto the gallery mode and just be able to see each other and take in a few of the faces and perhaps just send a warm welcome to this community that gathers week after week. Many of us have been here week after week. Some of us may be new. So a warm welcome if you are brand new to our Women Together community. And just taking everybody in. Just a little hello. I see many familiar faces. It's good to be with everybody. Wonderful. And after we've done that, we can just type into the chat. If you're on Zoom, it's the chat. If you're on YouTube, in the comment section, and just sharing what brought you here today. Today's session is about honoring our experience. So what brought you here today? And we've been doing these kinds of practice sessions. So we have teachers coming in as many times as we can in our Women Together Connect sessions. And then we have practice sessions. So today's session is really just about being with the practice. So today I am facilitating your session and bringing us through that practice. And a lot of that is based on some of my own work, my own embodiment practice, my time as a yoga teacher, and having held these meditation spaces and facilitated a lot of deep work with different communities. And so this is a time for us to continue to just practice together and cultivate this inner spaciousness with tiny practices. Wonderful. So we have a few comments in the chat. So to see beautiful, so I see beautiful, uplifting women, connection with other women, being more compassionate with myself and connecting to other women, Women's Month, also honoring the women and girls and children of Ukraine. Thanks, Lisa. So just feel free to type into the chat, type into the comment section. What brought you here to honoring our experiences today? Hello to all of you from West Vancouver, BC. Peaceful heart, wonderful. Connecting with you all. Have had times when I don't connect with my wonderful experiences. Sunshine on a cloudy, wet day. I love that this is our sunshine, that seeing each other and being connected to one another can be our sunshine. Oh, I love this. Jerry, thank you for sharing this. How can I say how great I feel after I've spent an hour together most Tuesdays? I enjoy connecting on many levels and I can understand myself better after being together. I love exploring the various ways we provide to explore how to be my best self. Thank you for sharing, Jerry and Sherry. Thank you. She said, I agree with Jerry. Kathleen, particularly important in this uncertain times to pause and connect, remembering the beauty of being with women, the wonderful time with authentic women, my Tuesday breath. I think there's just so much about connecting with other women that, it's funny. I work obviously within and connected to, I work within the Eileen Fisher Foundation and connected to Eileen Fisher, the company. And there's such a culture in Eileen Fisher of women being with other women. And of course we have men working within the company, but there really is a kind of dominant women's culture inside Eileen Fisher and within the customers and, just being connected to each other. And I really do feel that there is a magic that happens in that space. And, often when I'm in that, I kind of forget. I forget what it's like outside of that space. There are obviously ups and downs always wherever we are, but I go out into the world and I'm, ready to kind of do other things or do other projects. And then I realize, oh, right, this is not how everyone works. This is not how we operate all the time. So then I come back to Women Together and I see all of you and I think, oh, here it is. So it's wonderful to just have that. And it's also, what was shared here is by Jerry, I understand myself better after being together. We do this Women Together Connect in part because when we connect with each other, we start to understand ourselves better. And it doesn't mean that we kind of become the other person or what the other person wants us to be, but we start to kind of stand in ourselves. So it's not just about looking for validation. It's about listening from a place of confidently knowing who we are. So there's something that happens. It's subtle. It's not necessarily something that we're sitting there talking about all the time or able to articulate out in the world perfectly, but it's a subtle knowing, it's a subtle understanding of ourselves that we bring out into the world. Lakshmi says, it brings me joy and peace and love. Thank you, ladies. Wonderful. And there are a few in from YouTube that there's a need of calm and peace, resetting my compass, that this is my weekly reset button, and recharging. So wonderful. So what I'd like to do today is to just really honor our own experience by starting with the body. We'll do a little practice together, just honoring our own experience, starting with the body. We'll move into a little journaling practice, and then we'll spend the bulk of the time sharing with each other. So a little over 20 minutes in breakouts together today. So I see also just one that I want to read out here, that we have someone connecting in from Ithaca, wanting to support and be supported by women. Most of us are troubled by what's happening in Ukraine. It is impossible to let it go for a full day. The collective energy of women now is so important as we sit with what is unknown. And I just to add to that a little bit, I think that this experience of not knowing, we've been in 2 years of kind of a constant, somewhat volatile situation. And for many of us, that's been a disruption. And it, in some ways we go back to regular life, or, we've had the ability to kind of move into spaces in ways that we would have before the pandemic began. But there are all types of experiences in our day-to-day lives, whether or not we're dealing with a global pandemic or there's part of the world at war. So just recognizing that this kind of low-grade stress or high-grade stress is happening in so many different moments of our lives when we just interact with the world in any way. So really just having a space to come back to and be with each other has felt so important. And this point of sitting with what is unknown, there's always a place of not knowing. So we have the things that we know, the things that we know that we don't know, the things that other people know about us, and we can see that they know this. And then there's the complete unknown, this kind of other quadrant of just total unknown, that the things that we don't know that we don't know. And just being with that's okay. And I find that we as a circle of women have such a capacity to hold that space of not knowing. So I just thank you for bringing that in, and that reminder that we have that. Yes, Kathleen, that is I'm alluding to the Johari's window practice. We've done it in our Women Together space before, but just remembering that there's unknown and uncertainty, and that things become clear, and we just keep staying with. It's when we kind of try to escape that we lose sight of being able to let something become clear. So just staying with things, even when they are unclear, can be so useful. And when we do that with a group, then we can start to actually sense together what's emerging. So thank you for bringing that in. As I said, we're going to do a little embodiment practice, and we're going to do a little journaling here. So the invitation is to just land in the body again. We started there in the very beginning with our first tiny practice. So you can just maybe go to that place again, feeling a sense of the body's connection to the earth. And this time I invite you to close your eyes if you didn't already. Last week we had Rulan in with us, and she reminded us to be a dandelion and let our body move in that way. So today we're going to do a little bit of a slower immersion into the body, and just letting the breath explore the body. So closing the eyes, tuning in, and relaxing. And as the breath moves into the body, just letting it move into all of the places that need it right now. And just letting the breath explore, noticing where there's relaxation, noticing where there's tension, noticing where there's stress, noticing where there's aliveness or sensation. And for right now, just letting the breath be that exploration as it moves in, as it moves out. And as the breath moves in and out, I invite you to be with really honoring the experience of the body now. Just be with one particular place in the body. Perhaps it's a place of tension. So for me, it's my lower right back, just above my hip. I can place it right there. So just noticing where that is in your body. Just placing your attention there. Bring the breath to that place. Inhale into that space in the body, and exhale completely. Just letting the breath begin to move whatever may be in there. And if you feel called to actually move the body with the breath, using the breath as the guide, you can begin to move that part of the body. Let's say it's the shoulder. You can just slowly begin to move that part of the body where it wants to go. Arwana Hayashi, one of our teachers who's visited multiple times in our Women Together space, she says the body does not want to stay stuck. So just letting the breath be the access point for this movement, which can be quite slow. It doesn't need to be a now I will move the body thought. It is allowing the breath to move that place in the body. And just noticing where the movement begins and letting the breath continue to guide the movement in the body. And we'll just allow that to play out a little bit. Perhaps at the top of the inhale or the bottom of the exhale, you pause. Just finding movement with the breath. Just letting the body guide you. Honoring where it wants to go. And perhaps it's just allowing the body to be breathed. As the breath moves in and out, the lungs are expanding and contracting. So perhaps it's just being with the movement of the chest, of the core body cavity. Just being with that. And then maybe as you stay with it, expanding the body movement. So just giving it a little bit more life, expanding the body movement. Perhaps it's if you were in the shoulders, perhaps it's then moving the arms. Just feeling into what the body wants to do. And not being so concerned with what it might look like, or is this the right thing? But just being with. And just noticing if there are places, new places of tension that emerge, or new places of relaxation, new sensation or joy. And we'll continue to follow the breath for about 30 seconds more. Perhaps the movement is quite subtle. Perhaps it's bigger. Just giving yourself space to move. Maybe stretching the legs out, stretching the arms up overhead. Just honoring what the body needs. So often we walk around with just our head, making the decisions, deciding where to go, and really giving ourselves a moment to tune into the body, what the body wants, how the body wants to move, and letting the breath move that can give us whole new insight, whole new insight to what we need to how we need to respond to a situation. Just giving ourselves the ability to ask a question and let the body give the answer. Just noticing what's there. It's not a choreography. It's not a dance that someone is telling you, now move this, now move that, do this position. The body is really telling us what to do. Just being with it. And that in and of itself could be a tiny practice to just be with the body. I invite you to return. It takes a moment to get into it, but once I'm in the body has a whole new language for me. So I invite you to continue to practice with that. Whenever you can. It could be in the kitchen waiting for the water to boil for tea. Here I am. Here's my body wanting to do whatever it is, just being with it. Oh, my hips are wanting to move. Okay, so just being with that. And then I'd like to invite us into a little journaling practice. Now that we've just been in the body, maybe there are some new answers for us, and just honoring our experience of life. So honoring the experience in the body can open up so much for us, and transitioning to a different practice of journaling and letting the work of the hands tell us something maybe we didn't cognitively know. So putting our pen to the paper can really help us. And I'd like to do just 3 little journaling questions here. And we may have done this before, so you may be familiar with it, but I'd like to invite you to look at the phases of your own life. And if your life was a book, what would you title the phases of your life? And you can do, maybe there are a few chapters in the past. So you could do the title of the chapters of the first phases. And thanks, Karen, for putting those questions in the chat. So looking at the phases of your own life, if your life was a book, what would you title maybe the first few chapters, the phases of your life? And I'll just give you a moment to write that down. And then if you could take a little helicopter view of your own life and look at, where are you now? What would you title this current chapter? So where are you now? What is the title of this current chapter? And then finally, as we sense into the emerging future, the future that's trying to come through right now, what would the title of the next chapter be? What would the title of the next chapter be? And as we talked about earlier, things may be quite uncertain right now, and that's okay too. So wherever you may be, maybe you have a full, all the chapters. Maybe you want to title the whole book. But we'll move into breakouts now. And just the invitation as we go into breakouts, you could share the chapters of your book, you could share the title. And the reminder here is that we're really holding space for each other. And when we hold space for each other, we are really giving each other the gift of listening. So the invitation is to, as much as we have our own story, we don't know the story of others. Even if they tell us the chapters and the title, we don't know the details. We don't know the lived experience. And all we can do is really just assume the best intent and really give the generosity of this gift of listening. Because when we open up that gift of listening for someone else, we're actually opening up that place that we talked about earlier, that place of just subtly being fully in who we are. So, really being the listener and creating that space to, I love the quote of, we can listen her to her greatness. So, really listening to each other as a way of allowing that person to blossom into their own greatness. So, we'll give about 20 minutes for this conversation together. You can share your name, the stories, the chapters of your book, and just really honoring that we each have our own experience here. And then another invitation to attempt would be to give each other a breath in between each person speaking. So, really letting each other fully finish, taking a breath, and then letting the next person speak, and ensuring that you let everyone speak with the 20 minutes that are allotted. So, enjoy the time together. We'll see you back in 20 minutes.